She left me with the phrase, "You are not a man." I didn't argue. But when she came to dinner at a mutual friend's. My name is Anthony. If you've ever been humiliated by someone you loved, then this story might hit close to home because the last thing my fiancée said to me left me speechless for the rest of the day. I took her words like a man, and they became my fuel. Years later, we met again. And when she saw who was behind me, she was uncomfortable the entire time. But before I get ahead of myself, let me take you back and tell you exactly how we got from "you're not a man" to that moment at the dinner table that left her speechless. I first saw Stephanie when I had gone over to a mutual friend's place for a casual get-together. She was beautiful, no doubt about that, but it was more than her looks. We didn't talk much at first, just some small exchanges here and there, but by the end of the evening, I knew I wanted to see her again. We exchanged numbers as everyone was heading out. Over the next few weeks, we started texting here and there. I eventually found out she worked at one of the top prairie firms in the city. That didn't surprise me at all. She had that polished, smart, go-getter vibe that just fit that world. Our conversation started to grow deeper. The more I got to know her, the more I realized how drawn I was to her mind just as much as her presence. A few months in, it became more than friendship. At the time, I was working in the software department of a well-known tech company. My job paid well, came with regular bonuses, and gave me enough breathing room to live comfortably, and then some. I didn't mind spending on her. I actually liked it. Whether it was booking us dinner at the best restaurants, surprising her with gifts, or getting her little things she had casually mentioned in passing, I enjoyed seeing her face light up. It made me feel good to do that for someone I cared about. I've always been more of an introvert. I enjoy quiet evenings, familiar routines, and avoiding the spotlight. Stephanie was the complete opposite. She was social, spontaneous, and always looking for something new to do. She'd plan our weekends, suggest new places to explore, and pull me into things I never would have tried on my own. And I loved that. She brought balance to my life, pushed me out of my comfort zone, and made the world feel a little more vibrant. Back then, everything felt like it was heading in the right direction. By the time Stephanie and I had been together for 2 years, I was sure she was the one. You know how people say, when you know, you know. That was exactly how I felt. So, I made up my mind to propose. I went out of my way to get her a natural diamond. When I asked her to marry me, she said yes. She was so happy, smiling from ear to ear, holding her hand out to admire the ring over and over again. After the proposal, I asked her to move in permanently. Stephanie was already spending most of her nights at my apartment. Her stuff was in my closet. Her products were lined up next to mine in the bathroom. Half the time, she was already there when I got home. She agreed, and that was that. And for a while, it genuinely felt like the start of forever. 2 months after our engagement, life threw me a punch I didn't see coming. I lost my job, not because I wasn't performing or slacking off. I was actually trying to improve things. It all started with a company-wide email about a new internal policy. It didn't sit right with me. The policy had major gaps that could hurt both productivity and employee morale. So, I took a few hours, ran some numbers, and wrote a calm, data-backed response to management. I wasn't rude. I just wanted them to reconsider the approach and think long-term. But apparently, honesty was a threat. A few days later, I was called into HR. They accused me of undermining leadership, and by the end of the week, I was packing up my desk. Just like that, I went from a secure paycheck and a clear path up the ladder to staring at a blank calendar. And yeah, I could have immediately jumped onto job boards and started chasing interviews. But something in me had shifted. I'd been sitting on a software project for over a year, a platform I believed could actually make a difference, and I decided it was time to bet on myself. I sat down with Stephanie that same evening. We had a long talk. I explained everything, how I lost the job, what led to it, and what I wanted to do next. I told her we'd need to pause the wedding planning and slow down our spending while I built the foundation of the business. I was transparent, and I only needed time and support. I told her I didn't want to go back into a system where speaking up meant being punished. I wanted to build something better on my own terms. At first, she nodded along. She seemed calm, like she understood. But the moment I brought up the budget, something changed. She got quiet but didn't argue. I really thought things were going to turn around. I felt the software I was building was supposed to be done in under 6 months. I had a plan, and I believed in it. I poured my energy, my time, and all my savings into it. But reality didn't care about my timeline. The project hit roadblock after roadblock, bugs that wouldn't fix, features that wouldn't work the way they were supposed to, and investor calls that ended with polite rejections. Days started bleeding into nights, and those nights felt endless. Time dragged, and money thinned out. Rent was coming up, utilities, groceries. It was all catching up to me faster than I could push code. So, I swallowed my pride one evening and asked Stephanie if she could help cover some of the bills for a little while. The way she reacted, though, you'd think I asked her to give up her life for me. She said I was trying to turn her into a slave, that I was just another man expecting a woman to carry his dead weight. Her voice echoed off the walls, but I said nothing. I didn't even know what to say. And honestly, maybe a part of me was still too embarrassed that I had to ask in the first place. After that, her whole behavior changed, or it had been changing for a while, and I just didn't want to see it. Our conversations turned into one-word replies. The little things were gone. She'd come and go like a ghost, never really saying where she was headed or who she was with. And when she did tell me, it was always vague. Then one afternoon, I happened to look out the window and saw her stepping out of a car. A man was driving. I didn't recognize him. When she walked in, I asked her who he was. She didn't hesitate. "Why do you care?" She snapped. "We're not married. You don't owe me." But before I could respond, she brushed past me and went straight to the bedroom, closing the door behind her. So, as things got worse, I knew I had to find work again. There was no way around it. I spent weeks applying to different places, going to interviews, hoping to land something close to what I used to make. But every offer I got was way below what I was used to. And honestly, I just couldn't bring myself to accept those low-paying jobs. I told myself to hold out, that something better would come along eventually. But as days turned into weeks, the pressure kept building. Bills had to be paid, and the savings I had were disappearing fast. One afternoon, I came back home earlier than usual. The moment I walked in, I saw my fiancée's things packed and ready to go. I stood there, heart pounding, and asked her, "Where are you going?" But she just looked at me without saying a word. Then, not long after, I saw the same guy who used to drop her off. He pulled up outside, and together they started loading her stuff into his car. Before she got in, she turned to face me and said, "You're not a man, and I can't waste any more of my time being with you." Those words broke my heart. I wanted to say something to fight back, but I had nothing to argue with. She walked out of my life like that, and all I could do was watch her go. The months after Stephanie left were honestly the darkest period of my life. I stopped looking for jobs completely. At first, I had been sending out resumes, going to interviews, all because I wanted to prove I could support us again. But once she was gone, that drive just disappeared. I realized that the only reason I was pushing so hard was for her. And now that she wasn't around, it felt pointless applying to work in the corporate world. Instead, I focused every bit of energy I had on the software project I'd started before all this happened. I believed in it even when it kept failing. It was frustrating. Honestly, I felt like I was digging a hole deeper and deeper with no way out. But quitting wasn't an option. I had to make this work. Money was tight. I had some savings left, but that was running low fast. So, I had to ask my parents for a loan. I'm not used to asking for help, but they didn't hesitate to support me. With that help, I could keep the lights on and pay the bills while I tried to get this software ready. Most days, I shut myself away in my apartment. I stopped answering calls from people I used to hang out with, stopped going out, and pretty much ignored the world around me. The isolation was tough, but it also gave me space to focus. The one person who really stood by me through all of this was Stephanie's best friend. She had always been a little wary of how Stephanie treated me. Before the breakup, she warned Stephanie to be kinder, to not push me away. And after everything fell apart, she fell out with Stephanie over how badly she handled things. She reached out, checked on me, and offered words of encouragement when it felt like I was ready to give up. Her support meant more than I can really say. That friendship and my family were the only light during those dark months. Without them, I honestly don't know how I would have made it through. I reached out and brought together a small team that shared the same vision and the same determination to see this through. For over a year, it was a grind. We worked long hours, often late into the night, fixing bugs, rewriting code, trying to make the software do what we wanted it to do. And we found success. Money was tight. We knew if we ever wanted this thing to grow, we'd need an investor. Then, after months of pitching and negotiating, an investor finally came along. They saw the potential in what we'd built, even though the software wasn't profitable yet. They bought 55% of the company but agreed to keep our team intact. That deal gave us the financial lifeline we desperately needed. And with their resources, things changed. Suddenly, things started moving fast. We were able to improve the software, reach more customers, and finally get some steady income coming in. Despite the success, I kept my life pretty low-key. An old friend reached out to invite me to a small dinner party celebrating their anniversary. I was a bit hesitant because work consumes most of my time. The guest list was tight, and they asked me to bring A+1. I wasn't sure who I could bring. I hadn't been on a date or in any kind of relationship since Stephanie left. But then I thought about who had really been there for me. The person who stuck by me even when things were rough was Stephanie's best friend. She had recently ended a long-term relationship herself. And when I asked if she wanted to come along, she said yes. We weren't romantically involved, just close friends. The night of the dinner came, and I found myself feeling unexpectedly comfortable. I caught up with old friends, shared stories, and felt the warmth of good company. But just as we were about to sit down and eat, Stephanie walked in. She had been invited, too. And when she spotted me sitting beside her best friend, the look on her face was impossible to miss. Before the evening ended, she quietly slipped away. I thought when she walked away that was the end of it. But no, it wasn't that simple. A few days after she left me, my phone rang. The number was unknown. But when I picked up and heard the voice, it was Stephanie, right there on the line, furious. The first thing she said shocked me. Of all the women in the world, why did it have to be her? She meant her former best friend. She accused me of always having feelings for her friend, even while we were together. I just listened and then told her straight, "Don't call me again." And I hung up. I wasn't going to get pulled into her drama. But she didn't stop. She called her ex-best friend and started accusing her of betrayal, telling her to stay away from me when she couldn't get through to either of us with her anger. She switched tactics. She started texting me, saying she missed us, saying she was just frustrated back then and that maybe we could work things out. I saw right through it and blocked her number. Then, as if that wasn't enough, she called from a different number. I picked up and I didn't hold back. I told her clearly, "If you contact me again, I will report you to the police and take legal action for harassment." That was the last time she ever called. It was exhausting, and I had to draw the line for my own peace. I am only close friends with Stephanie's ex-best friend and nothing more. Honestly, she's been one of the few people who stuck around when things were really tough for me. I respect her for that, and I value what we have. Now, if something ever did happen between us in the future, I wouldn't try to push it away. She's a good person, and anyone who stands by you when you're at your lowest is worth keeping around in your life. But for now, and as things stand, we're just friends, and that's enough.